League Baseball was so popular that black churches would move their service time up an hour so fans could go to the game. If you know anything about the black church, you don't mess with service time.
There were African-American professional ball players in the 19th century.
But segregation starts to tighten its hold.
Well, what do?
We can do this on our own.
A few entrepreneurs see that a black club can be a successful business.
Rube Foster.
Light years ahead of his time.
Effa Manley.
The first lady of black baseball.
Negro League players made the game more up-tempo, bunt and run.
Base stealing. These incredibly acrobatic catches.
The major leaguers would say that the Negro Leagues didn't play the game the right way. Really, that was saying they didn't play the game the white way. Wherever you had successful black baseball, you typically had thriving black economies.
You have vendors and you have advertising. You know, people were making money from it.
But integration was going to kill their businesses.
It was good morally, but that progress came at a cost.
White fans saw a kind of baseball they had never seen before.
The great ball players of the leagues.
Jackie Robinson.
Buck Leonard.
Satchel Paige.
Willie Mays.
Cool Papa Bell. Oscar Charleston.
Joshua Gibson
would transform the game.
They are a part of a movement. Before we coined the term civil rights movement.
Man, they didn't care about making no history. They just wanted to play ball. But the pride, the passion, the courage in the face of adversity, that's the real story.
Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding the light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. Today, we have the epitome of Black excellence because we are going to talk about an incredible documentary called The League, which just had its world premiere at Tribeca Festival 2023. And the director of this documentary, Mr. Sam Pollard, is our special guest. Welcome to My Harlem Portrait.
Thank you for having me, Maria. How are you today?
I am very happy to have you. Your film has been co-executive produced by AHMIR QUESTLOVE and distributed by MAGNOLIA and opens in theaters on July 7. So congratulations, because usually when you go to a festival, not necessarily your film is picked up already, but your film is already opening. So
thanks very much. Yeah, we're happy. We're very happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, as everything you do, because if you remember, we met in 2017, and it was the screening of your documentary, Maynard, at the New York Doc Films. That was the time. I had a very little short interview with you on the Red. And then I've been following you since then, because everything you do, it's amazing. Among your most known documents, Mr. Soul, Sammy Davis Jr., By the People, the election of Barack Obama, MLK, FBI, Max Roach, and also the last year or 2 years ago at Tribeca, you had Lando's Country and the Road to Black Power, right?
You've done your homework, Maria.
Hey, I always do my homework. When I interview people like you, I have to. I didn't know, for example, that you are born in Harlem. That's where
I'm born in Harlem Hospital, 1950, but I grew up in Spanish Harlem. Wow. Listening to the music of Johnny Pacheco, Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez.
Patana, maybe. So you are an award-winner film director, editor, producer, and screenwriter. Among the awards you count Peabodys, Emmys, and an Academy Award nomination. What else? The reason why I follow you is that you make Black history come alive, and it is an invaluable testimony of a piece of American history, not just Black history, and culture, which is still and more than ever under threat of negation, especially
Absolutely.
in Florida. So thank you for what you do.
My pleasure.
The title already, The League, you start with Toni Morrison saying, in the Black community, when we heard the League, we knew it meant the Negro League. That was it. So this is your title.
It wasn't Toni, it was Maya Angelou.
Sorry. Yes.
Maya
Angelou. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
Absolutely, yes. It was her voice, a beautiful voice. What prompted you to embark in this new epic documentary, which celebrates the history of Negro League Baseball? And how long did it take?
Around 2016, 2017, a young man named Byron Motley, whose father, Bob Motley, was a Negro League umpire, reached out to me and said he wanted to do a film about his father and his adventures as a Negro League umpire in the Negro Leagues. But he had also shot footage of former Negro League players that he also wanted to incorporate in the documentary. So we started, we had a long journey trying to raise the funds, and it took a few years. We got QUESTLOVE involved as an executive producer. We got Radical, a company that sort of helped put the project together, and we were able to be bankrolled by Magnolia in 2029 and this company called Play Action. And we started research in 2021 and we started shooting in 2022. So it took a little bit of a minute, but you know, anytime you do a documentary, it's always a little bit of a hustle to get all the elements together to make the film.
Yeah. And this documentary celebrates their history, but from the very beginning, in 1884, you're talking about FLETWOOD Walters and it goes until the first half of the 20th century. So you span a lot of this. Tell us how you could do that. And I also saw that you dedicated this movie to umpire, which I didn't even know what it was, an umpire, until today, Bob Motley,
Right.
and based on his book. How did you discover all this amazing, never-before-seen archival footage and interviews with legendary players like SATCHEL PAIGE, Buck O'Neill, and some Hall of Famers like Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, who have paved the way to Jackie Robinson era, really?
Well, you know, it takes a lot of research, and you try to bring together people who can do the really deep dive into finding the material. We had a wonderful researcher named Helen Russell, who was able to find lots of the stills and lots of the footage, lots of the headlines to tell the story. Yes. And then we found we had a wonderful story producer, two really, one named Shayla Harris, and the other one named Robin Espinola, who helped us sort of figure out who we should interview, who are some of the historians we should interview to help tell this story. And we were very fortunate that a lot of these historians had access to lots of stills and footage of their own because they're all the big Negro League fans. So we were able to find all this material. And I was surprised, quite honestly, Maria, because I thought initially there wouldn't be much Negro League material out there. But because of, you know, the kind of deep research we did, we were able to find it. And one of the pieces we found was from the poet Quincy Troupe. His father used to play, was a catcher in the Negro Leagues. So, and his father had a 16mm camera, and he was shooting footage too of his experiences, which we had in the film. So, you know, when you find people who would love this game as much as they did, you can see that some of them had access to archives, both stills, both photos, and both film.
And I didn't know, because I didn't come to this country until the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, but I didn't know that in those times when it started, baseball was the major sport in America.
It was America's pastime, man. When I was growing up in the 60s, it was the America's pastime. Football and baseball were second and third. But now the tempo has changed. And most people, in America love baseball and football. And baseball, football, basketball and football.
Yes.
And baseball comes a distant third. That's why they've changed the rules in baseball today to try to make it a faster game. And I wish them luck.
Well, it was a faster game when it was the Negro League that played it.
Oh yeah, they played it. It was a different game. It's a different tempo, but it slowed down. So they're trying to come back to that same kind of tempo. But we'll see. I mean, most people like the up tempo of basketball and the up tempo of football.
And that's what you showed very clear in your documentary, that it was really the way that the Negro League played the game that changed the game.
Major League Baseball, exactly.
You reveal also in this documentary the importance of really great entrepreneurs like Andrew Rube Foster, that in 1905 owned and managed the Chicago American Giants and invented the screwball. I had no idea what that was also. Cumberland Posey and Gus Greenlee, and I'm very interested in her, Effa Manley, who was the only woman who owned the New York Eagles and brought them to win, and also admitted in the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about all these people.
Well, she was obviously a very savvy and smart woman who married a man who bought the Newark Eagles, and she became the co-owner of the Newark Eagles with her husband. She had great business sense. She could challenge anybody like Branch Rickey about not playing the Negro League, owners for the baseball players that they would get, that the white owners would get from the Negro Leagues. And she just had a strong personality. So I thought this was a story, Maria, that I didn't know about. So this is a real revelation. It was a real revelation for me. And I'm glad we were able to tell a story. And the other big thing with her was this dialogue: was she Black or wasn't she Black?
Yeah.
But that obviously brought mystery to her.
Well, what are these people, like you said with her? Tell us what were the main moments that you thought it was mostly important to concentrate on during the making of this movie.
The fact that Rube Foster started the first Negro National League is a very important moment. The fact that after his death and the demise of the Negro National League, Posey and Gus Greenlee became sort of the leaders of the next iteration of the Negro Leagues, and their competitive tension, which is really interesting. The introduction of Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige, two of the greatest Negro League ball players of all time. And then the impact.
Satchel Paige was the first Black player who was induced in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly, he was. And then, the stories of how Negro Leagues felt that ball players, like many people felt that after World War II, America had to come to terms with integration. And Jackie Robinson's journey from the Kansas City Monarchs to the Brooklyn Dodgers. All these are very powerful stories. And as and as one reporter said in a newspaper, these all could be very interesting scripted films with actors. The stories are so powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, they did the movie with Jackie Robinson that I really enjoyed. It was,
42.
Yes, that was really good movie. You also explore Black baseball as an economic and social pillar of Black communities, and a stage for some of the most important athletes to be seen in the major leagues. And baseball created a movement before it was called civil rights movement. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm not sure that's right. I would say,
That's
you know,
what
the
they said in the movie.
yeah, well, we sort of say it, but in a different way, that the civil rights movement was part and parcel of what was happening also in Major League Baseball. The fact that Black people were fighting for integration coming out of World War II meant that all aspects of the Black community were open to this idea that integration should happen. Yeah. So when Branch Rickey found Willie Mays, because initially Willie Mays wasn't his first choice, he was looking for Monty Irvin, but then he went with Jackie Robinson. You know, then you saw how this notion of integration, because when we grew up, to me, the big thing was, wow, Jackie Robinson integrated Major League Baseball. But the story was more complicated. That's why I love the part about F.M. Manley challenging Branch Rickey, you know, in terms of not paying these Negro League owners for their ball players. So, you know, it's American history, as you know, is a very complicated history. And I think one of the important things about the league is to show that this story of these Negro teams and the communities they lived in, and they helped economically, was an important part of the fabric of America, you know, in that time of Jim Crow and segregation.
And apropos Jim Crow and segregation, another thing that you showed very clearly is how these teams, to make sure that they could survive economically, they had to play up to 3 games in a day in different cities.
Yeah, that's right.
They were not allowed in hotels, so sometimes they had to sleep in the bus because it was so segregated. They couldn't go to the restaurant, so they had to go to the grocery and buy food. And one of the players said for a couple of days they had to eat bread and...
That's right, Hank Aaron.
Yes, I mean, tell us about that, because that is incredible how these people could do it. The stamina must have.
Well, here we are, these people live in a segregated world, and they have to figure out how to survive. You know, the challenge of having to survive. When you're driving across country on a bus in southern states, like Mississippi and Alabama and South Carolina, and you can't go to the front door of a restaurant, you can't use, you know, the restroom in the restaurant. You know, you got to admire the challenges they faced and how they have tried to overcome them. Because I don't know if I could have lived through it, you know, the period of segregation. My dad did, my uncles did, but I don't know if I could have.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't. That's why.
No.
Point. We have come too far to go back, which is what they want us to do. Go back 50 years. This is just terrible what's going on. And we come to this, what was one of my questions, that you examine in real depth the historical context in which all this took place. You start from 1896, you go through the 2 world wars, the post-war one violence in 1919, the segregation. You talk about Commissioner Landis, that finally died in 1944, but he was the one totally against integration.
Totally.
Then you talk about this East-West classic game in the 50s and the role of Black activism with Paul Robeson and journalists with Winder Smith to integrate the Negro League into major leagues. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was a story, the Paul Robeson story, I never knew either. That was a refreshing story.
Wow.
To learn about Paul Robeson's trying to help major league owners say, you guys should really integrate baseball. And these are the things that I think a good documentary does. It helps you uncover things that you never knew about. It opens up Pandora's box for an audience. So they'll learn things like, wow, I didn't know that. You know, so, you know, the East-West Classic, which in the 1930s was just an important opportunity to see the best from the East and the West come together and play. It was an opportunity for Black people to come out dressed up, to hang out, to see ball games, to go out and hang out at night and go to clubs. You know, it was an experience where, you know, the musicians got to meet the ball players and the ball players got to meet the musicians. You know, so, you know, even though it was segregation, which was horrible, within the Black communities, there was a sense of, you know, comradeship and love and the desire to just figure out how to enjoy your life, under some horrific circumstances.
Well, what you show also is, and what I've seen and heard many of my friends say, that in segregation, the Black communities were able to really thrive because Black people, when they unite, they are so far ahead that they can get to height that if they are blocked by white people, they couldn't get. And we saw it in Black Wall Street in Tulsa, right?
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Because we had to rely on each other. We had no outside forces that we could rely on, because the outside forces were trying to oppress us, And we live in America now where people are trying to take away our liberties and trying to oppress us again and again and again.
I feel this moment in history, in my lifetime, is the worst.
That's how I feel too, Maria. That's how I feel. I can't imagine that I'm here 73 years and America is going through such craziness now.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, we're listening to this man with the orange hair day after day say things that are untrue, inaccurate, and he's got people who really just support him. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, the craziest thing is, here's a guy twice impeached, twice indicted, could become the president again. It's mind-boggling.
But this is one thing I don't understand, because isn't there a rule that someone like him, who has been impeached and so on, cannot run for president?
No, there's no rule. The only thing that could have worked is if the Senate, had convicted him, then he could not run again.
The Senate is not going to convict him with all.
No, the House impeached him, but the Senate would have to convict him. So who knows, Maria? It's really crazy.
These are, to me, I'm so afraid of a civil war. I shouldn't say that, but I'm really...
No, I agree. I'm afraid of a civil war too.
Yeah, it's so, and you see in the people around, you see the tension, you see the bitterness, and also you see how there are so many crazy people because they have not been taken care of during the pandemic, and all the mental health is really at its peak.
I know, but look at California today. The homelessness, over 100,000 people homeless in California. That's insane, and the richest country in the world,
supposedly.
Yeah.
So
where do you live in Harlem?
I live on 116 in Lenox.
Oh, okay. I grew up on 99th and 2nd.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around the corner. I walk there to go to the hospital.
What's hospital? It's
Mount Sinai.
Right, Mount Sinai.
Yeah. So another thing very interesting that I saw in your documentary is that the fact that with Jackie Robinson and then others were integrated in major leagues, that meant that the most the best players were taken by white
owners. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's right.
For that, tell us what happened.
Well, think of it. You got Jackie Robinson, you have Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, who become great baseball, Ernie Banks. All of these were picked out of the Negro Leagues, because what are they looking for? They're looking for young, vital, exciting ball players, and these were the guys who were there. Now they took Satchel Paige because he was a legend, but he was much older than many of these players, but and what happened when you took these players? The Negro League suffered. And by the 50s, a lot of teams has been sold off and no longer existed. And then by 1960, all the Negro League teams were gone.
And I didn't know that. And another thing I didn't know is that because of that, the fact that the Negro League slowly disappeared, it caused also an economic decline in the Black communities.
Well, think of it this way, though, because it wasn't just the Negro Leagues leaving. It was all the other economic institutions leaving. It was the doctors and the lawyers who now could integrate in white communities. It was, you know, the stores would no longer have to be able to only sell to Black people. The bigger stores coming in, the A&Ps, the Safeways. You know, it's the opportunity. It was Black people being able to leave their communities, to go to other communities, to shop, to live. That had an economic impact on all these Black communities. You know, it made them suffer.
And that I didn't know at all, because I didn't understand how Harlem, that was really, because you can see in the buildings and so on, you can see Harlem was an amazing place.
Oh, yeah.
They are rich and wealthy and so on. How it went down. Now we are in the second Renaissance. And to me, Harlem is the most culturally awakened and rich part of this country. I wouldn't live anywhere else than in Harlem, in New York.
Good. That's right. You should. Do they still have the market on 100? Yeah.
It's right next door to me. The Shabbat market.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's thriving. They come with the tourist buses now every morning.
They do? Yeah.
Yes, they do. I mean, Harlem is so beautiful. And I'm so happy I moved here. So tell me also, I didn't know that. Another very important thing is that many of these players, they went enrolled in the First World War and in the Second World War. And that was also because T. Booker, he said, we should go to war so that we show that we are Americans and we defend America and we will be respected when we come back. But that's not what happened.
Not what happened at all. I mean, but you've seen this time and time again. Young Black men, they go off to fight for this country, be it World War I, be it World War II, be it Vietnam, be it, you know, Afghanistan. They go off to fight and hoping that when they come back, America will see the light and welcome them with open arms. But that doesn't usually happen. I mean, this is this thing in America that they won't deal with, you know, the notion that this country was built on the backs of Native people and Black people.
Absolutely. And that's why my show is about Black excellence, because Black excellence is what white supremacists are scared of. And that's right. Why they keep on doing what they're doing.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And that's why the orange thing can do what it does, because people who support him are like him. They've always been like him, but they didn't have anybody to make it okay.
But he's made it okay.
Yeah.
He's definitely made it okay.
Only here, though, because around the world, when he was elected, well, when he stole the elections, because I think that's what happened, really. My friends from Europe, I mean, they were calling me like crazy and said, what's going on? Is that true? Is that possible? What are they doing? What's going on? Are they crazy? We can't believe something like that.
Yeah, we know. None of us could believe it, Maria. I couldn't believe it.
I was so scared. And then some of my friends were saying, no, but when he becomes president, it will get better. You see, it will get better. And I said, no, no. He gets the power, it gets worse.
Yeah.
That's what
he wants to be like Putin.
He loves Putin. And the other one, the North Korean, that's his job.
He wants to be a dictator. He wants to be a dictator.
He has shown what he is.
Yeah.
So tell us last thing, what you want the people, the viewers who are going to see your movie, what you want them to take home?
I want them to take home that this film, this story about the Negro Leagues, is a rich and important American story. And you can't separate the two. The African-American experience is part and parcel part of the American experience. And if you understand that, that means you will be enlightened and awakened by what you can learn from this story.
Another thing that scares me is, and shows me how much your history, the Black history, has been nullified, is that someone like you, who knows everything, who has been writing and making movies about this, you can say that you didn't know about this and that. I can't believe that. It means it has been really eliminated in a very...
That's right, eliminated from the history books, you know, and what is that old story, you know, Maria? The winners write the history. The people in charge write the history. Now it's our responsibility to come and say, we're going to be in charge and write the history the way you should hear it and understand it.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much. I think they are telling me that we are to the end. They told me 5 minutes ago. I want you to thank you so much for giving me this time. I've been wanting to interview for the longest, and today you made my day.
Great. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you for what you do, and thank you to my Harlem Portraits viewer. We'll meet you next Saturday, 12:30 p.m. for another episode of My Harlem Portraits and Black Excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.